All right, everybody, here we are. It's time for Game Boys to Men. I'm Jeff Gerstmann, joined by Glenn Rubenstein. Happy holidays, Glenn.
So good to see you. Happy holidays to you as well. And today we get to discuss something very near and dear to our hearts.
Yes, it's a holiday miracle, I think, for both of us that we get to sit here and discuss the soundtrack to the film Judgment Night, released September 14th, 1993. This is, I feel like if you were trying to put together one of those images that was like 90s white rapper starter kit, it would be a picture of it would be the Walk This Way video, and then it would be the Judgment Night soundtrack, and then like a Kangol and a microphone or something, like it's really complete. I could go get my Kangol.
I own many of them.
I just have the one. It's a bucket hat. I like that hat. It's not purple, but
yeah, I was gonna say.
Unfortunately,
no, this soundtrack was huge. So we're getting a head start on celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Judgment Night soundtrack.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: this is not going to be one of those videos where we play songs and you just watch us bopping our head and going, "Oh snap! Did they just do that?"
No, we know that they did that. We've listened to this a lot. There's no oh snap moments left in this.
There was so much head bopping this weekend as I listened to the soundtrack on repeat, and then I had to ruin it last night by watching the movie Judgment Night, which was a
biggest mistake you could have made. I did not see the movie until probably like 15 years ago, something like that. Wow. So, I did not see it when it was new. I did not see it in the context of this soundtrack or anything. It was one of those things where you're like, it was 93. Dennis Leary was hot.
Yeah.
And so on some level, it was like, oh yeah, maybe this sounds good. But nothing about that movie ever looked all that appealing to me. As much as I like Emilio Estevez, like the cast in it semed era appropriate. Yeah.
Everlast is acting in this film.
Yeah.
That's the connection.
Right. But yeah, nothing about this movie seemed all that, even in spite of loving the soundtrack. There was never even a thing like, well, I'd love to see how the soundtrack is used in the movie. Like, I can't even remember now because it's been so long. So
it's barely in, it's like literally in little snippets and playing on radios. And it's so, I'm trying to think of a less detached soundtrack to a movie.
Right.
The credits, the opening and maybe the end, they play De La Soul and Teenage Fan Club doing Fallen. Little bit of Another Body Murdered is over the end credits. But no, for people that don't know, so the idea of this movie is four friends are going to Chicago to watch a boxing match. They rent an RV, they take a wrong turn, they essentially witness a murder, and then Dennis Leary, Everlast, and the two other criminals chase them through Chicago, and it's like a dark version of Adventures in Babysitting, but without any of the charm.
Yeah. And Emilio Estevez is up on the roof with a shotgun shooting dishes, and
Don't tell mom the babysitter's dead, Jeff. You're confusing your Keith Coogan babysitter.
God damn, man.
Keith really had a lock on that. But no, I think it's a movie that probably was a lot grittier. I'm sure it was pitched in the late 80s when it was written as like yuppie deliverance.
Sure.
But the end result is just very watered down. And Dennis Leary as the bad guy, this was the ranting dude on MTV, and now he's supposed to be the homicidal, Irish crime lord.
Right. And they don't really play into like the thing that got him there in the first place, like the thing that made him famous. Like, it's not like Demolition Man, I feel like at least had that moment of just like, all right, we recognize Dennis Leary is popular for monologuing, so we're gonna let him do that here.
He talks a little shit,
but not like It's not like I don't remember for sure, but it's not like a full on Dennis Leary rant or whatever, right?
And it's not funny. There's a time when he's ranting about oh, you North Shore guys come here, yada yada, and it's just like, okay, dude, this isn't not really well thought out. But the movie soundtrack was, as Jeff said, this was like the nexus of taking hip hop and heavy metal and combining them into a new genre of music. So the history of rap and rock, a lot of people know, obviously Run DMC had Rock Box, Beastie Boys had No Sleep to Brooklyn. Now, It's interesting. I don't know if you know this, but people are like Aerosmith and Run DMC Walk This Way. That was the first rap rock crossover. And actually, I think I found the first one that predated that, which was John Lydon, Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols, and Africa Mabata doing World Destruction, which is just a banger of a song. Very, very good. Very good mix of hip hop and like punk rock. It's got like basically the Hey Mickey drum beat going over the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah.
It really slaps.
I mean, you could even, if you really, I mean, it's not metal or anything, but you could probably slot Blondie into that whole mix somewhere.
Why does Rapture always have to be Rapture's in the conversation, then you listen to Rapture at the end, and then Fab Five Freddy, and then just turn it off from there. It's all downhill.
Yeah.
From there.
Did you ever see, it's the infomercial that the Black Eyed Peas did? It's the fake infomercial for like learn hip hop, and it's like all these people going like hip hop saved my marriage and like all this other stuff, and there's like learn how to freestyle, and it's got this woman doing like this, Russian kind of Eastern European thing, and she's like you're looking at flashcards and trying to freestyle, and it just reminds me of Rapture because it's like such nonsense. But like that, I don't know. That was like what? That was like the Upper East Side fucking art kids scene of just like we're just gonna say whatever, man. Like like that was before anyone was really putting any thought into their fucking rhymes anyway, so can't really blame Blondie I can't really blame Rapture for being fucking stupid.
The KRS-One version of Rapture is pretty dope though. Step into a world. That
that is pretty good.
Yeah,
that is pretty good.
Yeah. But no, man, so when this happened, the precursor to this, so a guy named Happy Walters managed Cypress Hill, Soul Assassins, Cypress Hill, House of Pain, Funkdoobiest. Now, thankfully, we were spared Funkdoobiest having a collaboration with like the Screaming Trees on the Judgment Night soundtrack.
I would have taken it. It would have been some weird song about porno. It'd be like, I'm Son Doobie, the porno king. Coming, this movie's great.
Funkdoobiest is like dollar store Cypress Hill.
Yeah, and it's like I recently re-listened to a lot of Funkdoobiest. It was just like this thing. Dude, don't fucking come at me. You were the one who fucking liked Funkdoobiest. Don't sit here. You had those records like, no, this is good. No, he was in Cypress Hill and then he's on one of the tracks, but then he left and did this other stuff. And no, you need to listen to that. You were the one pushing it then.
I liked what's the version of Put Your Head Out, the Womp Bop Baloo Bump, the one with Everlast and Be Real, like the Soul Assassins posse cut.
Oh, okay. It's like the remix or
that was good. Bow Wow Wow was everywhere for about
like a summer or like a month or so. Yeah, it was like like the Funkiest. Is that the other one?
The Funkiest actually is pretty dope with the breakdown. The breakdown in that song is pretty good. But no, I mean, look, Son Dubious, it's a copy of a copy. Like you listen to it and you're just like, okay, they're the franchise.
Yeah, like he could not have been in Cypress Hill because people would have been like, why are there two Be Reals in Cypress Hill and one is not as good as the other?
But look, I mean, we were all into questionable music in the 90s, but I have this memory. I was doing, and we talk about this for anyone that doesn't know on the Patreon podcast, we do Game Boys to Men.
Yeah.
I was doing consulting for Galoob at a mall in San Jose. And I remember being like 16 years old, I guess 17, because it was summer 93. And I remember, blunts were all the rage.
Yes.
And I was like, I got to figure out how to get me some tobacco, so some blunts. And then I'll get the marijuana and I'll smoke the blunt. And I remember I was at a mall with Galoob and I went into a pipe store, like a tobacco store. And I remember saying like, my father's birthday is coming up. Can you perhaps recommend some? And they sold me like some pipes and I bought like $50 worth of pipe tobacco. And I remember driving home from San Jose, smoking a pipe, listening to the Funkdoobiest record.
Ah, yes. This is why they had to outlaw all flavored tobacco this year. They finally got around to it. They heard this story back then and they're like, we've got to get, kids can't buy backwoods anymore. We've got to get all this blunt wraps, all this other stuff out of here. No flavored anything.
But so Soul Assassins owned hip hop for a brief period of time with these three bands. Really,
really just Cypress Hill and House of Pain. Funkdoobiest was not a major factor.
Summer. There was that summer.
Okay.
But the Boom Shalak Boom, Shamrocks and Shenanigans, House of Pain, their second single, this was their follow-up to Jump Around. They had a remix that was done by Butch Vig and his studio cohorts. A lot of people don't know this. It's the band Garbage before they were the band Garbage.
Right.
did the music on Shamrocks and Shenanigans, and this was the theme of our radio show in '93 that we had.
Yeah, the rock remix of Boom Shalak Lock
so
Boom was the theme to At the Controls, the radio show.
We covered this in our band.
We did. Yes.
For a period of time.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Oh my God, the whole song. We could almost do a separate episode just breaking down the lyrics to Shamrocks and Shenanigans.
Yeah.
But do you remember? Was it you or was it Mike Headley that one time at a show or a practice when they got to the because I Bring Doom, and I think it was Headley that actually busted out a 3.5-inch floppy with
that was
Doom
not
on
me.
it.
That was not me. I would know
Headley.
better. That's Mike would have done that. Mike would have definitely done that.
That was like a master, like he was planning that. He had that, and he was just like, they get to the I Bring Doom, I got the boom schlag, and he's gonna bust out the floppy.
Yeah, that's. Oh boy, I think that was like when we were rapping. That was the one song I knew the lyrics to. The songs that we had written, I had to have paper for the first 6 months or something like that, because I basically refused to learn. I was like, this is not going to last, so I'm not going to bother to learn. And I was never that great at memorization until that crust punk band ripped all the papers out of my hand while we were playing, and then magically I just knew the lyrics. It worked out actually.
Wow. It's like a moment in a movie.
It was a real I push him into the deep end thing. The stinky ass fucking Mohawk punk guy going and then I just kept going, and I wasn't gonna let him win. God damn it.
Oh, according to Genius, Danny Boy's lyric, "It ain't no thing, my clawda ring. I have seen my cardinal ring, my car don't ring, my clawda ring."
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Learn something new all the time.
That's a brand. Is that a?
It's a traditional Irish ring.
Okay.
Represents love, loyalty, and friendship.
I feel like I have looked that up before and been like, and immediately forgotten it and been like, I don't know what the fuck he's saying there. God damn it, Danny Boy.
And
get off the drugs.
In the original version, in the remix, Everlast said, "You make me sick like Strawberry Quick," and then in the re-recording said, "You make me sick like DJ Quick."
Yeah, they were beefing. Everlast and MC8, however, never teamed up to release any kind of collab diss track on DJ Quick. All that stuff got squashed along the way somewhere, but yeah.
So before you listen to the Judgment Night soundtrack, and that's the thing, is we're not going to be bopping our heads. Feel free to pause this and just go and listen to the songs, and then we'll discuss the songs. Yeah. It'll be like we were right there with you, bopping our heads along with you.
Exactly.
Rocking out to it.
Yeah.
But listen to Shamrocks and Shenanigans, the Butch Vig remix first.
Yeah, and then if you want something that I think probably took place several years after this, but is constantly linked in my mind, the rock remix of Tres Delinquentes.
Oh yeah,
that was on the Bulletproof soundtrack.
Yeah, that wasn't that much longer.
Yeah.
Oh man, that song. Yeah. Tres Delinquentes was everywhere.
Yeah,
for
that
a
song
summer.
Was fucking everywhere. Yeah.
And
then that ended up on, I think it was on more soundtracks than just, it was in more movies than it was on soundtracks. I want to say it found its way into other things, but yeah, so this Judgment Night soundtrack, I mean, really, it's a theme soundtrack, which I don't know that I had ever really seen before, but it was this whole thing of hey, we're gonna pair up bands with hip hop acts and have them create a full fucking soundtrack. And, it was pretty mind-blowing, I think, even at the time. And I think it created a lot of connective tissue, I think, for people that went on to start bands with live bands and rapping in them. I bet that this is 93, right? So when does a band like Limp Bizkit get off the ground? That's
97 in Jacksonville, I think 96 or 97 in Jacksonville, and then actually maybe short even closer after this. And I think about it because the record came out.
The local act for a while, and then the record started coming out 96 somewhere in that vein. So
Faith would have been end of 97. So no, I guess they probably. I mean, Fred Durst literally got this record and then started a band the next day.
I would not like that. If you told me that was the origin story of that, I would not be shocked at all, because I feel like the strength of this, and I feel like there's a real wow, okay, because I think a lot of the technology end of recording and all of this other stuff was really changing in the years following this in a way that democratized home recording even further. But I think people were better set up to, people were still better set up to record instruments than they were to just I have a PC and I'm going to make hip hop beats. That wasn't, we started doing that in 95, 96, and it was not easy.
I mean, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that in some future Game Boys Men episodes. But no, you had close miking technique got really perfected. You had the ADAT. Like, it was much more accessible than it used to be to make a record. You didn't need like a 2-inch tape, in a drum room.
Right.
But so Happy Walters, the manager of Soul Assassins of this crew, he had this idea. Everlast had been cast in the movie, and he said, "Let's do this soundtrack that brings together these two very complementary demographics of hip hop and heavy metal or hard rock or however you want to classify it."
Yeah.
And I remember at the time when I was consulting for Spectrum Holobyte, we were working on that music video game project I wanted to do. So I got Spectrum to get me a subscription to Billboard magazine, which at the time was like $300 a year.
Yeah.
And I remember being so stoked to get every issue of Billboard. And I remember they announced it there that it was like, okay, here's this high concept merging of metal and hip hop. We think this is going to be huge. They planned, and I checked, this never actually happened. But they said, we're going to have a huge concert on MTV that's going to be hosted by Fab Five Freddy and from MTV Raps and Ricky Ratman from Headbangers Ball. MTV is going to be all in on this. Like the marketing hype of this in the quote unquote trades was what originally got me interested in it, because I remember reading that early summer '93, and by the time this came out in September, I mean, I was there, at Warehouse Records, like the morning this came out, ready to get it. After I think I heard the House of Pain Helmet single, the track opener. I think I heard that first. Although it was weird on the cassette tape, the order's different on the cassette tape. Oh,
really? Huh.
Yeah, on the cassette tape, Cypress Hill and Sonic Youth is first. But
weird. They must have had to balance out
listing,
track lengths or something. But
yeah, it opens and closes with Cypress Hill on the cassette. But we're going to talk about the Spotify, the CD, version,
the canonical,
version. But this was huge, man. And I remember seeing the trailer, and it's funny how you think about your teenage mind. Like, you never buy into the hype of marketing as much as I do, but I remember it was like, Judgment Night, this is going to be the soundtrack, the movie, this is going to be insane. Like, I think I was there for the movie opening day, and and my disappointment in that is why I didn't watch it again until last night.
Right. Like, I bet. Yeah, no, it's not a good movie. Like,
it's really not.
Point blank. It's just the only thing of any kind of lasting, like the soundtrack, I think, like stands the test of time in a lot of ways.
I mean, so much. In fact, the soundtrack I think has only gotten better. I think when we first heard it, it was very much you got peanut butter in my chocolate in my peanut butter reaction. But over time, now you look at it, and this was the blueprint that laid it out there, and it really. We talked about Anthrax and Public Enemy's Bring the Noise on a previous Game Boys to Men. That sounds messy now by comparison.
I didn't like it then because I like the original Public Enemy song. And so like hearing that, it was just like, all right, you went and fucked it up. Like, it's not like, I didn't think it was especially good performance from Anthrax, because it is very messy. It is really all over the place in a way that almost comes off like a novelty song. Like, look at this, look at what we're doing. The same way I'm the Man did. Which I did like I'm the Man.
But that was purposefully so the original.
Exactly. This felt like they were like, no, now we're gonna do it for real. And it's like, no, you don't have the chops to do this. Like, you can't rap well enough to like go tell your funny jokes and scratch your fucking Sam Kinison records and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. So let's dive in and talk about these track by track. The opener, and it's interesting that Helmet, the noise rock artistic punk band. I don't know. Does Helmet even have a genre? I mean, you're not a big Helmet guy.
No, I'm not a big Helmet guy. Weirdly enough, but this is probably the only Helmet song I've ever heard, unless they had something in the early Rock Band. I know a couple of of these bands did, but
Unsung was their big
Unsung. That was in
track.
That was in one of the Guitar Heroes, I want to say.
And they have more melodic songs. It's actually interesting. And by the way, I watch a lot of YouTube videos and listen to podcasts, and I sometimes cringe when people get the facts wrong of things. So I just want a disclaimer that a lot of this is based on our memory with a little bit of research to back it up.
Cursory glance, but mostly a re-listen and going, yeah, fuck yeah, all right.
Yeah, and the things I couldn't tell you a goddamn thing
about Helmet.
Alex really into Helmet. Alex Navarro really into Helmet.
Sure, I bet.
I think I copied the Helmet CD off. in the mid 90s.
But this was, I mean, this was to me, 93. This is going to be House of Pain kind of at or around the height of their power.
Yeah, between records.
Yeah, between records and with a much harder backing. This track I think is really interesting because they split it into two halves, whereas a lot of the other ones are like more full-on blends of the styles. This one starts out more.
It's a Helmet song.
Yeah, it's a Helmet song,
and then 3 minutes of Helmet.
Yeah, and then literally halfway through, it stops and a drum machine kicks in, and then it becomes a very much a House of Pain sounding track. And I think it's a really strong opener that way because it kind of showcases the two sides of kind of what's to come in complementary ways. Like there is a little bit of the House of Pain style in the early parts, and there's quite a bit of the Helmet style in the later parts, and I think both of those, either end of that, could have been stretched out into a full length song and worked pretty well. But it's interesting when they basically like stop kicking the drum machines, and then here's a verse from Everlast, or two verses from Everlast, right?
Two verses, yes. Yeah. And there's a video online of Everlast performing this with Helmet, and Everlast forgets the lyrics at one point.
Yeah, it's not something he performs every night like a lot of this other stuff. I wouldn't be too shocked.
And also this track, so it's interesting because Helmet, the hook of this song is phenomenal, and I think that's the hook is almost the best blend of the two styles in this. Good stuff in the verse. Great. If you are not familiar with the House of Pain style, as opposed to Cypress Hill would have Be Real, say something in the chorus, then Sendog would repeat it.
Yeah.
House of Pain style is Everlast says the line, and then Danny Boy on the 15th or 16th note, right before it repeats, almost as like echo reverb.
Yeah.
What Everlast says. And I can hear in my head just reading it, where because now because you're John Doe sitting in a bag and you're toe. Like, Danny Boy is the secret weapon of House of Pain.
Yeah, I think we have said it before on Game Boys to Men that Danny Boy, I think I would have appreciated more of his input or more performance from him on those first couple of House of Pain records. It's why I sought out the fucking, I don't know if it ever got a proper release, but the X Supermodels EP, like where it's Danny Boy and some other fucking guy. Like, yeah,
I too had Napster in the late 90s.
Oh, I found a much higher quality version of that more recently. That this you don't need your weird 112 encodes anymore. Yes, Danny Boy is there with it's almost like a Greg Nice style, kind of nice and smooth, where Greg Nice would just do it to himself, or he would repeat himself in a way, or go over and re-record his own kind of ad libs, or I guess that's what everyone kind of does nowadays, is just do their own ad libs. But Danny Boy was there to do them live. This is a great track. This is I think this fits right in with the rest of the House of Pain catalog, and I think it is probably one of my favorite House of Pain tracks.
And what's funny is that thematically, this soundtrack references maybe some themes of the movie, but this is not Lose Yourself with a drop of no Mackay Pfeiffer.
No,
but Everlast in the second verse says feeling like De Niro in Taxi Driver with Jodie Foster and Harvey Keitel. He's just running down the cast list of other movies.
It's just like an extended conversation with like Taxi Driver with Jodie Foster and Harvey Keitel.
Albert Brooks
looks like you're walking through a living hell.
Sybil Shepherd when she was younger. Remember?
Yeah. Taxi Driver. You ever see it? You should go watch that instead of this fucking mess.
Actually, okay, so let me tell you, I saw Taxi Driver because of this song. I never seen Taxi Driver before. So me at 17, remember I was on my Taxi Driver kick for like a week?
Yeah. There was a little.
We'll discuss that when we get to future.
I guess you did reference Taxi Driver in a rap at one point, also, didn't you?
Yeah, entirely.
Of course,
Taxi Driver because of this song. And then he says, because I'm gifted, I read Sun Tzu. I admit I bought a copy of Sun Tzu also after this and browsed through it and was just like, this seems kind of obvious. Everlast, is it really a brag that you read The Art of War by Sun Tzu? Right.
Yeah. It's like kind of top of the list. Like, it's like 50 Cent talking about the 50 laws of power. The 50 laws, because I'm 50 Cent.
But it's good. I mean, the way that later hip hop was obsessed with Scarface, Everlast was obsessed with Sun Tzu.
Right. Well, yeah, or Taxi Driver, which I think is very on brand for like what movies would House of Pain be into? It'd be like, yeah, Taxi Driver.
At the Pope of Greenwich Village? Not Mean
No,
Streets,
yeah, a little
know?
bit, yeah, that stuff too. I feel like if there had been if they had been more prolific in that era, you would have probably had those movies come up as well.
It's amazing.
Later on, it would have been talking about like Kiss of Death or something like that. Like, yeah, you see that movie?
Well,
Nicolas Cage can't put the metal in his mouth. Like, yeah.
No, wait, remember at the beginning, Nicolas Cage, when he's killing Michael Rappaport, is putting on the House of Pain record.
Yeah.
And like quoting it, like going on.
It's a great movie.
But this style of rap, I do have to admit, I like this though, because the Beastie Boys and certainly us and other hip hop will just name drop a movie. But I like the House of Pain went to greater details. They should have kept with this gimmick. I want an entire album of just movies that Everlast watched.
Yep.
And just talking about details. And like, John DeBont was the cinematographer of Die Hard. And that's part of the reason why it looks so good. Well, let's just really get into it. I think
I used to hang out with someone who was in the movie Set It Off, and now here's 3 verses about that. Thanks, Everlast.
Everlast watches a lot of movies.
Yeah, he's got the time.
He's got details.
Yeah. That's how he came up with something as inventive as La Coca Nostra. I was like, you see those mafia movies? I've seen some. Here's a list of them. And then just like, freestyles the whole thing. And Bill and he goes,
Speaking of which, I had to send you the link to this. Everybody go on YouTube, Kings of Quarantine. Look up, there's a cover of Just Another Victim, and it's like people from Mastodon, Sick of It All, Slain from the Coca Nostra does a verse on this. Like, we were talking about this off the air, like regardless of what you think of the performance, there's so much joy in watching all of these metal guys that you could tell like this was their soundtrack growing up, and now they're covering this song.
Yeah, there's an excitement that comes off of that a little bit. You're like, oh yeah, like I was not super into it, but also I was like, yeah, no, that's cool that they're super into this. Like,
that's why Jeff and I will be doing a quarantine project, remote recording, covering every song from.
That's right, covering everything. Yes. Yeah, sure. Yes, it's just we're except for Come and Die, we're gonna skip that one. LA 92. I can say that pretty well, so I think we'll be okay. They really kind of. They almost start the show with a showstopper here. I think there's powerful stuff later on, but like this is probably still my favorite track off of this. Yeah.
Oh man.
There's one other one that comes close, but this is the Helmet and House of Pain track is probably like if I'm just listening to 1 or 2 songs off of the soundtrack, that is definitely one of them for sure.
And maybe this was a mistake in that they front loaded it so strong, because then we go from this to De La Soul and Teenage Fan Club featuring a sample of Tom Petty doing Fallen. I mean, man, this song I liked when the soundtrack first came out. Now I fucking love this song.
It's great.
It's so good. So this is like, how are you? This is like the first sort of chill. This is probably the first acoustic rap.
This would have come before Sometimes I Rhyme Slow, which I just not. I mean, that's a sample, but it's
Well, I mean, and there was the MTV Unplugged famously with LL.
Yeah.
Telling everyone to leave that crack alone.
And the most fucking visible underarm deodorant known to man, just caked on. He needed it. He was sweating up there.
Love that special.
Yeah, that's amazing. This track's great, and I think if you think about De La Soul 93, the kind of the when you hear De La Soul talk about their career and talk about the things that they had to do to, whether it was like stay on their label or keep making music or just, keep making the music they wanted to make. And, you hear Prince Paul talk about it a lot. I feel like they were struggling to be themselves in an industry that really didn't want that. And so this track about like rappers that fell off or realizing like, oh man, our careers falling apart, and the drum programmer wore a Kangol and like all this kind of cliche hip hop stuff. And I think it's a really interesting piece in their kind of overall story. Even if it's not necessarily autobiographical, I think there's elements of like the De La Soul story that I think are at least somewhat represented here.
I don't remember this music video ever getting shown in the 90s. Have you seen the video for this?
No, I've not.
Okay, so you need to check out the video. Everyone needs to check out the video because if you know anything about De La Soul, like I almost like had like tears in my eyes at how brilliant this was. They start the song and they're in a classroom meant to be like the classroom from Me, Myself, and I.
Yeah.
But it's like blue lighting. I mean, so it really sets this tone where, like you said, it puts their career in perspective
Yeah.
and how they're presenting it. Like this music video is just as a concept is great. And there's some allusions to Blind Melon's No Rain in the style of it, of what they're doing. Yeah, like this song is really good, amazing lyrics, amazing flow in this.
Yeah.
I mean, just amazing vibe. And it's funny.
They fit together so well, like I could not name another fucking Teenage Fan Club song. I remember they were kind of around then, but
yeah, Teenage Fan Club would have mocked me as listed like, what is this pretentious alternative rock shit that you're listening to? Oh, you're really into the Manchester sound now, are you? Like Teenage Fan Club, I can safely say at the time would have not been your jam.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think that they provide a fucking very solid background for this song. Like it all fits together. Like maybe in some ways this feels like the most like well realized track on the entire record, of just like, no, this all fits together. Like they are creating together, they are creating a single vibe, as opposed to like the Helmet and House of Pain, which again like feels almost deliberately cut in the mid, not almost, is literally cut in the middle between the two styles. This is the exact opposite of that, of like, this feels like everyone was in the studio together and came up with this.
The record, I don't think this record would have, I think you and I would still love this record. This record would not have been as influential if the entire album were songs like Just Another Victim, where it was, here's a rock song and now here's a guest verse in the breakdown.
Yeah, no, that would have, like there's a certain, because remember, this is 93, like we're not too far, like Onyx and some of the other stuff. Like there was some very much some fucking hard hitting fucking hip hop that, that makes a lot of sense when kind of juxtapositioned with metal and all that sort of stuff. But like, yeah, a whole album of it wouldn't have worked. Like you needed range, and this provides a lot of that range.
I don't know that this is my favorite song on the record. This is the best song on the record. Like just from and I guarantee you this is even if you don't like metal or hard rock or alternative rock, like there's something for everybody to like in this song.
Yeah, I think if this came out, closer, if this came out more recently, no one would bat an eye at it, because it's one of those things that just like stylistically you'd be like, oh yeah, no, that type of music exists now, but it didn't then.
Actually, I think this song could be a number one hit now if this came out now.
Maybe.
Because I think it's got such massive crossover potential. But it's funny that then at the end, and it still takes me out of it, but in a good way, when then they start just dropping the lyrics to Deuce's Daisy Dukes at the outro.
Yes.
Which is just, I mean, that goes to show we were guilty of this too when we were doing music. How you forget sometimes that things that are really funny in the moment are going to be recorded forever. And I
think this still works now.
It does, but it's also, you almost have to explain this to somebody now that, look, we had a lot of weird novelty Miami bass songs.
Yeah.
At this era, that was
including
what was popular.
Daisy Dukes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They should got Deuce on this record. Like Deuce and like what? Presidents of the United States of America. Like who were we teaming them with?
I mean, there could have been
Uncle Luke and Blind Melon.
There could have been 100 other collaborations that I would love to visit.
Yo and Juliana Hatfield.
The one at the time that I always said was I wanted to see Boss and L7.
Yeah, that would have been.
They would have thrown down on that.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But no, Fallen. Look, I mean, and this is where the soundtrack, I think, if there's a critique I have of it, it's very tough to start out with these two songs back to back and then follow these two songs, because it's going to get a little more up and down from here.
Definitely. And that leads us to Me, Myself, and My Microphone, Living Color, and Run DMC. You'd think it'd be, a no-brainer to get Run DMC involved in this project, considering their history with, sampling rock, working with rock music, Rick Rubenness, and all of that. So they take a line from another Run DMC song and turn it into a full song here. I could take it or leave it. Honestly, it's fine. It's, the chorus being, I go uptown, I'll come back home with who, me, myself, and my, like, just like that being the repeated bit. I think Living Color is talented. I think they do some really solid wrestling intro music. But
why is no one coming out to Glamour Boys?
Yeah, I know. What's fucking the fucking Dylan? No, what the ROH guy that comes out with the Boyz?
Oh yeah, Dalton Castle.
Dalton Castle. I was gonna say Dylan Francis. Close enough. Yes, Dalton Castle should come out to Glamour Boys.
Glamour Boys. I mean, Living Color.
Because he's fierce.
Living Color does not get the credit I think they deserve as just a great hard rock band. But this track is fun. It doesn't feel. This almost feels like a late 80s track as opposed to an early 90s track. And I know it's a weird distinction to make, but genre-wise, it kind of tells you something about maybe where these bands were compared to the more cutting edge.
Definitely. I mean, Run DMC in the 90s is a really weird, their track record gets strange fast. Like they almost end up in some kind of novelty act territory here and there where they're doing stuff, but by the end of the 90s, they're doing tracks with Fred Durst and stuff like that. And you're just like, this is.
Well, so interesting about that. Before DMC's had that like vocal cord paralysis.
Right.
That took him off the Crown Royal record. Essentially, this was the last. I believe this was the last all three of Run DMC in the studio, like actively collaborating on a track together after Down with the King.
Right.
They did this. I like the song. I don't think it's
that's fine.
Bad by any means, but it definitely, I think the vibe of it's good. But Run DMC had a lot of songs like that, where even if the lyrics weren't 100% them at the peak of their game, the vibe was still sort of there. You can almost sort of just listen to this rhythmically as opposed to even paying attention to what they're saying. Like, I like the vibe of this song. It's fun, but it's tough. Again, the way this is sequenced, tough being the number 3 track after those first two.
Yes, definitely. It doesn't hold up to those first two at all, for sure. And it's fine. It's fine in the context of the overall soundtrack. It's not something I would really go out of my way to listen to on its own.
Vernon Reid's guitar tone, though, man, like his licks on this, like they're so good they almost distract from the vocals.
Yeah, I mean and I think that's actually fine in this case, because I think it's Run DMC putting on a Run DMC like performance, which by the 90s is why you go to Run DMC, right? You're like, come in here and Run DMC it up, like do your thing, and whatever. Like Living Color seems like they are the showpiece here, and they're definitely like playing around a lot more than the lyrics and all that. Like I said, they named it after an old Run DMC song, just kind of took a line. They had a hot line and made it a not that hot song. Well, as they say.
And somehow MC Search got paid the publishing on it.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
Could you imagine if Third Base? Who would you have paired third base?
Who are you gonna put with third base here? 93. They Might Be Giants and third base.
I will. Okay. MC Search, P Nice. I know you're not talking to each other. They Might Be Giants. I gave you a lot of money when I promoted a concert with you in the 90s. I feel like you owe me, but I will make a sizable donation to charities of each of your choosings if Third Base and They Might Be Giants come together now to do a song.
Yeah. About an alternative baseball Hall of Fame.
We could probably do a mashup of Brooklyn Queens, and They Might Be Giants has some. Yeah.
That's very doable. That'd be very doable.
But I want them in the studio together, hanging out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the last thing I heard is that John Flansburgh was in a bit of an accident. And
I think he's better now. They're touring.
He's better now. Good. Okay, good.
I still have tickets to their Oakland show that's been postponed now 4 times.
Oh geez. Yeah.
Crazy. But Yeah, third base. They might be Giants. Make it happen.
Okay.
Or they should be a super group. They could call themselves Brooklyn's Finest.
I think that works really well. We should probably, I'd definitely set that up.
So track 4, if you like the Biohazard remix of Slam, you will love the song Judgment Night with Biohazard and Onyx.
Yes. Biohazard and Onyx getting the treat of performing the title track. I think this is pretty good. It's dumb. It's exactly what you think it is. It's fucking, it's Onyx doing chanty fucking hooks and rhyming the way Onyx does, very in your face, very aggressive and all that shit. And I think it works very well for what it is, but it's like it's a certain type of hard that I think comes off as kind of corny these days, and maybe sort of did then too.
Oh, when they're all chained up in the back of the prison transport truck together in the video?
See, I don't know that I've seen any of the videos for this stuff.
The video for this looks remarkably like the Bionics remix of Slam. But they might have shot it on the same day.
Right, yeah. It's just like, screw it. We got everybody together. Let's do
it's got the screaming of Judgment Night.
Yeah.
Much like Mortal Kombat.
Judgment Night! It's just real stupid.
And
it's like they thought it was going to be the Warriors or something. They're like, we need a Warriors come out, like.
If I heard this song and then saw the movie, I would be even more disappointed, because this song does make it sound like it's the Warriors. This song sounds like the police have trapped you and are making you fight each other to survive.
Yeah, there's some kind of hard violence associated with this song that is not represented in the movie at all.
Not at all. If you want to watch Jeremy Piven try and negotiate his life with
motherfucker, I don't want to watch Jeremy Piven do anything
except get thrown off a building.
Yeah, well, sure, yeah, why not?
We put this on. My wife tapped out of the movie Judgment Night after about 10 minutes. And she went, oh, so Jeremy Piven's character is that he's Jeremy Piven? And I was like, yes.
Yeah. That was, remember when we saw Jeremy Piven in that parking lot? Were you there for that?
No, I don't think so. Maybe.
I think Brendan went up to him and tried talking to him, and he was a dick. And so, not that I was like a big Jeremy Piven fan before that, but I think on top of that, it was just like, yeah, fuck Jeremy Piven.
Yeah.
Piece of shit. Fuck that guy.
I mean, he always played an unlikable character, and then it turned out that life and art intertwined. But Onyx still plays this song. There's videos of them doing this even at the Gathering of the Juggalos. And what I love...
Oh, what a perfect venue for this song, though. I mean, like, if you're going to do this song somewhere, the Gathering of the Juggalos is the place to do it, right?
What I love is that Biohazard, in addition to shouting out Judgment Night, they have lyrics over the hook, where it's Judgment Night, die young, dung fast, echo of a gun blast. Onyx, when they play this live, is just Judgment Night. Yeah, Judgment Night. Like, they can't be bothered to learn Biohazard's lyrics.
No. Well, that's for when Biohazard shows up to perform them.
Do you remember Biohazard played the Phoenix?
Mm-hmm.
And
which is a venue in Petaluma where we both grew up.
And I read this happened everywhere. People would go see Biohazard in concert and be like really pissed off that Onyx was not with them, because that's the only way people really knew Biohazard has a small fan base, and they put out some decent New York metal records.
Known as Resident Evil in the United States.
Yes. But Biohazard's claim to fame was their collaborations with Onyx.
Yeah. And so, but like, no one going to I don't know. I'm sure there are plenty of Biohazard fans, but like, yes, the wide ranging, like, oh, Biohazard, I like that one song where they go Judgment Night. We should go see them. And then, how come they didn't talk about making the white man come? What? Hang on. What? How come? What?
I knew you were going to go with that lyric. I knew.
It's the only like actual standout line in the track. But I mean, the not that it's like lyrically weak or whatever, but it's like it's the memorable. Lyric. Yeah.
Sticky Fingers, also known as TV's Blade from Blade the series.
Yes.
Which is very solid if you've never seen it before. Should have gotten renewed. Sticky Fingers, his verse is real. I mean, he's always the standout in every Onyx track. That's the problem. Like, some people can name maybe Fredo Starr, but good luck naming all 4 members of Onyx.
Well, you named the 2 that
Yeah. This is like a U2 situation where we all know Bono and The Edge, and then I think there's a guy named Larry. Like,
yeah, sure, yeah. Larry on drums.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet at one point I could name at least a third member of Onyx, but that information is thankfully gone. I'm now happy when a lot of that information is no longer retained, because it's such useless information to be carrying around that it's nice that it's like I feel like I'm making room for new shit still. If I can't remember all 4 members of Onyx anymore, it's like, okay, good.
We were watching 80s commercial vault on YouTube over the weekend, and like KOFY TV20 came on, and I was just like, KOFY Bay Area TV20, cable channel 13. And I was like, KBHK is TV44, but cable channel 12. KTVU is both 2 on both, and KICU was channel 36, and then cable channel 6. How do I remember that? But I can't remember anything I learned in school.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, what? I can't remember anyone's birthday anymore, but I can tell you a lot about Field Communications, the company that produced all of KBHK's internal broadcasts and all that sort of stuff. People collect all that, all the idents and all the, is a huge.
No, I mean, it's the best thing on YouTube. Or in fact, why are you watching this? Just go and watch old TV from your local market. It'll take you back in time. But no, look, Judgment Night as a track, this is fun. This definitely had the head bopping. This was me alone. Yeah. And Jeff, I'm not ashamed to admit this because I love this so much. I even closed my eyes to feel the music more when I was listening to this.
See, there's an aggression to this track that, when I hear this is like some fucking let's go break some goddamn windows. Like there's some real, like, and that is how I express when I hear hard music, when I hear heavy metal guitars with hip hop beats under it, there is something inside me that wants to go break shit. Such that, I could see why someone might hear this album and then go on to write a song called Break.
It's just one of those days.
It is. And there's definitely like a let's go break some glass, let's go fucking hit a car with a bat type of stuff on this track for sure. It's pretty hard.
I think in 1993, the song Judgment Night and the Bionics remix of Slam were probably responsible for at least 50% of youth-related crimes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, you put this on and you're like, no, let's go fucking fuck shit up. What would Onyx do? Like, I don't know. I don't know that they would go break some windows and hit cars with bats, kid, but go off. I
want Onyx to have to put out a PSA.
Sticky fingers going, hey, don't fucking do this shit. Stupid ass. The fuck is wrong with you?
I work out my aggression in the gym.
That's yeah. I lift weights to get off.
Okay, this song is got to be on at least like five figures, like at least tens of thousands of gym mixes still.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Oh, like, yes, there's a certain, like, people of a certain age that are just like fucking lifting weights to this and screaming. Yeah, totally.
I'm gonna start taking creatine and listening to the Judgment Night soundtrack and working out. Just, I'll do upper body, lower body. I'll alternate. No off days.
That's right.
Energy. But no, so we go from this. Okay, so we talked about this on Game Boys when we were talking about this. Ice-T and Slayer doing Disorder. Now, this is 3 different cover songs that they were doing here. This was always the track I skipped when I was younger, and here's the reason why. It's quite good for what it is, but this is just, in my mind, not the format of the rest of the record.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this is not Ice-T doing rap verses over metal. This is Ice-T in body count mode, shouting along to metal. And I think that works well. It plays to one of Ice-T's strengths, I suppose. I was never like the biggest body count fan, but not really what I'm looking for. When I think Ice-T and music of Ice-T's that I want to listen to, it's not body count. It's not this. It's not him in heavy metal mode. I appreciate that he has range, that he can go on and play a cop on TV and rap about how much he hates cops. I think that's great. That he can be in a metal band and be in a hip hop, a hip hop artist. Like, awesome. I think, that he can be in Gears of War and, complain about achievement points or whatever on Twitter. Sure.
And sell you Car Shield.
Yes. Sell me Car Shield, sell me Honey Nut Cheerios, while also getting online to talk about some real gamer shit. Ice-T shouted us out once years ago on a live stream. I saved it somewhere. But yeah, this is yeah. I don't know that I have much.
It's just not the theme of the soundtrack. It's not the format.
Exactly. And it's kind of just planted in the middle here as a kind of a forgettable thing. Listening to it now, like I almost skipped it listening to it the whole thing this morning. I was like, oh right, this thing. But then I was like, oh, I want to hear the part where they go LA 92. Like I like that part. But
I actually think I know this is covers of songs they didn't write. I think one's by The Exploited. I think it's amazing how any hip hop or metal lyrics about, the system being fucked up, it's amazing how poignant those always seem, and perhaps even more so as time goes on.
Yeah, I think it took a lot of years. It took I was a pretty fucking thick-headed motherfucker for a lot of years, and it took a long time for some of that to sink in and go like, oh, that's not just like some made up shit. Like, no, the world is actually okay. Yeah, no, the world's actually fucked, and they were right all along. Okay, huh? I had that kind of like come to terms with it moment years later. But yeah, it's yes, this track is 5 minutes long, and kind of I think it's a little too long. I think it's fine for what it is, but yeah, it's not a great fit for the record, and I think I would have rather had Ice-T, rhyming a little bit here.
Because Ice-T with Slayer, Ice-T rhyming over Slayer, I would still pay a decent amount of money to hear that. That would be phenomenal. But no, look, listen, I like the first Body Count record a good deal. I would say listen to the first Body Count record, then listen to this. This would be like the ultimate bonus track. That first Body Count CD.
Yeah.
And listen to Slayer's Raining Blood as well, because that's always rocks.
Yeah.
But we follow that up. If that's not your jam, maybe you'll like Faith No More and the Booyah Tribe.
Yeah. Which I feel like now, years later of like, I think I only had an inkling here in 93 of just how fucking weird Mike Patton is. And I think like this track just, I think, speaks to me or works a lot better now than maybe it did then. I don't know. But this song's fine. I think Mike Patton does some, like his vocalizations here are good. It's maybe the only Booyah Tribe song I like or / can name. There were a couple of Booyah Tribe singles that I feel like got some airplay and had music videos and stuff like that.
Played instruments. Their bass player played.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
And Mike Patton requested working with the Booyah Tribe because he is like vocally just one of the most impressive rangy guys. He was very interested in Samoan chanting music, and that's why he wanted to work with the Booyah Tribe on this.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. Like, I think after years of seeing Mike Patton interviews and just realizing like his weird interests and like his wide range, whether it's in music or out of music, like I think he's a fascinating dude.
Can't remember if it's Faith No More or Mr. Bungle, but there's a live concert version of him doing a slow, like gothic version of the Nestle Alpine White Sweet Dreams You Can't Resist. And I listen to that probably 3 times a year because it's on YouTube. It's so good. But yeah, Mr. Bungle,
it's right up there with AC's cover of the Threes Company theme in terms of hot.
Wait, who covered the Threes Company theme?
AC, the grindcore band. We'll just call them AC, as they are often referred to in polite company.
I figured out what you meant. But no, I think Mr. Bungle is one of those bands that I'm going to put this really nicely because I don't want to offend anybody. Like, I don't trust the taste of anyone that's really into Mr. Bungle.
It's like really,
really into Mr. Bungle.
I remember when Faith No More broke, like, no, I had never heard of Mr. Bungle. And the people were like, no, Mr. Bungle, it's his other band. It's his old band. I wasn't sure if it was still a going concern or if, it was really, I remember hearing that like Squeeze Me Macaroni song. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, this is fucking, all right. Yeah, no, he's talking about jacking off. That's crazy. I'm a teenager. This is great. And I want to say Mr. Bungle, did Mr. Bungle play Casa? They played
you're
the
thinking
Phoenix
of Disciples
or something.
of Ed. You're thinking of DOE.
You're right. Yeah,
I saw Satan in my taco salad. I think I sent you the YouTube link because that demo tape is on YouTube.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
But no,
I remember when Green Day played Casa.
Yeah. No, but Mr. Bungle played our area a lot. And I think that, and here, I don't want to offend any Mr. Bungle fans of their later work. I'm just going to tell you that in the early 90s, there were a lot of kids with cassette dubs of Girls of Porn, and they would go on and on about Mr. Bungle. And maybe that just sort of biased me against their music.
Well, I think it's a very teenage boy friendly thing, right? Where it's like they're talking about cranking it and Girls of Porn, all this other stuff. Like it was very much like the same way that like I was trading around copies of Two Live Crew's Move Something. You know, I'd be like, have you heard 1 and 1? Like it's the worst song on that fucking record, but well, it's not a great fucking rap song. But like when you're fucking 14 or whatever, it's the funniest shit in the world, and it's a novelty at that point. I think like the Mr. Bungle stuff, I think spoke to that demographic as a novelty. And then, but not that again. Yeah, I'm not intending to offend anyone. I actually think most of the Mr. Bungle I've heard is actually like fine and to good or whatever. But like,
this is the most sensitive caution I've ever seen either of us show on a podcast.
Yeah. But I think that's genuinely how I feel about Mr. Bungle, where it's like I like it in theory, but in practice, I'm like, yeah, some of this shit is like whatever. But like, I love that it exists. I love that it kind of still exists.
I mean, that's how I feel about ICP, except I also love it in practice for much of it as well.
Well, I mean, right up until the Joker's cards were over, or even actually, I think
first deck.
Great Malenko is the last great ICP material. Everything after that is fucking shit. Or like, there's like 1 or 2 things you could pull out and be like, okay, this is sort of okay. But like, by the time people were clowning on them for fucking magnets or whatever, I was like, yeah, whatever, man. They had fucking, the first 4 albums were really good, and the EPs that went between them were fine as well. But like, look, man, we wouldn't have launched Video Game Spot if it hadn't been for ICP.
It's true, but that's
listen to a lot of that shit.
Day.
Yeah.
But no, look, Faith No More though. I mean, we care a lot, sort of prototypical of the rap rock genre, epic with Mike Patton as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that Mike is just doing this low chant, almost operatic vocals on this. Booyah Tribe, I think, really brings it on this track. I like their energy.
Mm-hmm. Lyrically very hard.
Yeah.
I mean, the track is literally called Another Body Murdered. So, the subject matter is there.
I feel like, I mean, when we get to Fatal in Therapy, I feel like if I have notes, it's like Booyah Tribe, I understand. Do you think maybe you're being a little too literal or leaning into the theme of what you think the movie is about?
Like if you listen to it without the context of like this is a movie soundtrack, I don't know that is necessarily evident. But yeah, there's definitely a certain aspect of it of like, okay, like this is meant to sort of thematically fit here, even though they didn't really use the soundtrack all that well in the film. But
it's the second end credit song after Fallen.
Okay.
It's the only other song that gets a full or mostly full length play. No, I would like to see the version of the Judgment Night movie that is based on Another Body Murdered by the Booyah Tribe. That actually sounds pretty dope.
I do think that having 2 tracks on here, one called Just Another Victim and then another one called Another Body Murdered, is a little like, okay, yeah, you guys are really trying to hit, you guys at least are trying to hit a theme here. And like they, Everlast would have probably known what the movie was about at this point, I would think. But like,
you think Everlast remembers?
No, I don't know.
Everlast, like, I showed up. Dennis Leary was there.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. Me and Dennis were tight at the time, and
Dennis did the intro to the original Shamrocks and Shenanigans video in his peak MTV style.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, how come nobody said, let's have Dennis Leary talking on a track, William S. Burroughs style?
Well, he did with Asshole, right? I mean, he did his own, and then that ended up being a bit. Well, was that before or after this?
That's a good question. No Cure for Cancer. When did that come out?
Yeah, I'm tempted to say it's after, but I guess I don't know.
No, that was 92.
Okay, so he had already done that. So he'd already done it. I mean, I think that was, he already had his MTV fame on multiple levels. He had his own song. He had all the commercial bits he was doing for MTV. So, he's probably tapped out by this point.
I don't know all the lyrics to this. I feel like I can sort of keep up with the flow of this, but I did not know that the lyric was "I gotta pay the paid to play to get through, and I ain't through till I'm dumping on the moon."
So true.
That is phenomenal.
So
I ain't
true.
through till I'm dumping on the moon.
Yes. Any way you want to take the term dumping there, I think works.
I've been saying for 30 years I need to listen to more of the Booyah Tribe.
You know, I feel like I've had a period there where I was like checking out some Booyah Tribe and didn't really stick with any of it, but yeah, you know, they did their thing.
This is a good song though. This is in the rotation when I'm deciding like what's my favorite song on the soundtrack. Sometimes it is this.
Huh. All right.
And
I don't know that I would rate it that high, but it definitely like is on the top half.
Because I think sonically there is something really cool about the way Mike Patton approached this and the way they're building. Like the cool thing about the soundtrack is we talk about how many bands were probably started as a result of the soundtrack. Like of the bands started by the soundtrack, you can almost tell which song was the one.
Right.
And this one is the one that probably I've heard this style the least, but I wish I'd heard more of. Where they were like, "Hey, dude, you've got a really impressive voice. So why don't you do some operatic shit? And I'm just gonna drop rhymes over." Like,
you just give me a yeah, and then we're gonna shout, "Bang your head to this!" Like, yeah,
like that's fucking dope. It's still like I was listening to this and I got kind of looks from the wife where I was like, "Do you have to turn it up so loud?" I was like, "I need to turn it up louder."
That's right.
Why
do you hate me? Yeah. Yeah, definitely on the upper half. Like if we were ranking the tracks in order or something like that, it's up there for sure. I don't know that I would ever call it my favorite, but it's definitely like a standout.
Well, if you enjoy this track, you are going to be so surprised by what follows this, because perhaps for the first time ever, Cypress Hill has done a song with about how much they love marijuana.
Whoa.
And they brought Sonic Youth along to help them out.
Yes. Sonic Youth, I believe, also enjoyed marijuana at a time.
Can you name more than 3 Sonic Youth songs?
No.
I have a theory about Sonic Youth that I mean, we all like Bull and the Heather. 100%.
Yep. Great video.
Video game soundtracks. I think, and I'm probably guilty of this as well, I think a lot of people bought Sonic Youth CDs to have in their record collection to make it seem like they had better taste than they do.
I could see. Yeah, I could see some people doing that.
I think it's one of the, like you meet somebody at a party, like, "Hey, what music into?" "Well, really like Pearl Jam, Nirvana." Sonic Youth, of course.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Thurston
no.
Moore,
Sonic Youth was that band. Yeah. Thurston Moore was that dude then for sure. And that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I think Bull and the Heather is I love that song. It's a great song. But I could not name you any other. I could not name another Sonic Youth song other than this one with Cypress Hill called "I Love You, Mary Jane." Little on the nose.
A little bit.
It's okay. It is not in the top 50 songs Cypress Hill has written about weed, I'm sure. And it's slow.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, they do get 2 tracks on the record. The second one,
which is weird, but yeah, the second one is much better.
It was their manager that put this together.
Yeah.
Hey, again, that could have gone to Funkdoobiest with the Screaming Trees.
I could have been Funkdoobiest with Sonic Youth. Maybe there's scratch vocals out there.
So, Doobie, it's all about porn. I love you, Mary Jane.
I love you, Mary Jane. You took on all those dudes. This gangbang video is great. I love you, Annabelle Chong. Can we change the name? No? Come on, man.
This might be the best impression in your repertoire.
Yes. My fucking world-beating son Doobie impression. Been working on it. A lot of looking in the mirror going, it's probably, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Not everyone gets it, but those that do.
It's all based on that one skit on that one album. That's the entire impression is just based on that. And that's all I have, but that's all you need when it comes to a Doobie impression.
I mean, a lot of people do a Be Real, and a lot of people do a Send Dog, but not a lot of people do a Doobie impression.
And I think, it's a shame because I think if you're out there doing a Be Real and a Send Dog, like you're halfway to a Doobie impression. You really, it's minor adjustments at that point at most.
There was a car ride when we were working in Berkeley where we were listening to songs and you were just doing Send Dog, echoing whatever was being said in the chorus of the song.
I still feel like you should. That if vocal AI, if AI technology does not get us to a point where there is a Send Dog button that I can push that just does that just says like, yes, put more Send Dog on this, have him repeat the lyrics a little bit after.
Saying to you, I was ahead of my time with the concept of shit posting because I remember in a taqueria with you one day saying you should just make a tape and just put it out there of just you doing Send Dog over popular songs.
That'd be yes. That's like what there was that 50 Cent fucking mixtape where they did Ja Rule duets too. That is like them just playing songs and then just having like a bad Ja Rule. It's not even an impression really, but it's just like, when Ja Rule was doing all those fucking shitty R&B crossover shit, like making fun of that, and it's perfect. The fake ad for Ja Rule duets too. I recommend you seek it out.
Check that out. I had Chat GPT write Ja Rule and Ashanti duet retelling the plot of the movie The Cutting Edge. And like the lyrics were pretty on point.
All right.
It was pretty good.
What would I be without you? Yeah.
Where would Ja Rule be without Onyx?
I mean, Ja Rule is like, he existed in that pocket between DMX and Jay-Z, literally on some songs. And like, I think if he had stayed somewhere in that lane, maybe there would have been more for him, but he was overshadowed by everyone he was working with constantly. He's the worst part about every song he's on.
Which some might say is a talent in and of itself.
Right. With like the exception of that fucking one song about New York. But
so Sonic Youth and Cypress Hill, here's what I know about Sonic Youth. When after you left the band, we almost signed a deal with Geffen. And our Geffen rep wanted to talk to us a lot about Sonic Youth and how difficult they were, like with just we were talking about budgets and time in the studio.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, you could have a plan, but then you could be Sonic Youth and just go spend a year in the studio and you can't even get a usable song out of it because you're just dicking around on guitar too much with noise.
Great.
So I think having DJ Muggs like take some Sonic Youth licks and some vocals and loop it works well, although the song is very repetitive.
Yeah, it's droney in a way, or it's just like literally all they have is just like the "I love you, Mary Jane, she'll be coming by to get me." Like lyrically, it sounds well. It sounds druggy. I guess I was gonna say it sounds subdued and kind of underwhelming. But I think if you are envisioning it as part of a marijuana induced haze, then I suppose it makes more sense.
You were not in 1993.
I'm not now. God damn it.
You need to get a bunch of edibles delivered to you. And
you sound like Bill Corey now. No.
Relive that could be a video series. Jeff experiences Cypress Hill.
That's right. Yes, I'm gonna get high on weed and listen to Cypress Hill and go, oh, okay. Yes, this makes sense now. No.
This is good, but it's not as good as Fieldy's Dreams. Are You Talking to Me? And his duet with the marijuana.
Of course, yeah. No, yes. None of this is as good as Fieldy's Dreams. Let's be honest here. That's Baby Hugh Hef. God damn.
Korn has a hot sauce with Heatonist, and I ordered it, and it's actually really good. Like I bought it as a goof, but it's actually really good.
How's their coffee? Did you try the coffee they did?
I've not tried Korn's coffee. No.
Okay. All right. Well,
I think Fieldy got driven off Twitter because people probably just kept mentioning Fieldy's Dreams.
I think you need to embrace that. He put out another album after that, but it was all instrumental bass. I think it was just called like Bassgasm or something, or I forget what it was called.
Well, Sir Mix-a-Lot did a song about women with Mudhoney.
Yeah.
Freak Mama.
I think Freak Mama is okay, but when I think about what Sir Mix-a-Lot is capable of when backed by a live band, I think Freak Mama is kind of disappointing.
I don't think we would have had Subset with him and Presidents of the United States if not for Freak Mama with Mudhoney.
Also almost certainly true. Mudhoney was a Seattle band, right? So it probably makes
I believe
sense
so.
as a
So
pairing.
if not from Seattle, definitely lumped in with that scene.
Yeah. I think this song's okay. I think this song is good because I think Sir Mix-a-Lot embraces it in a way. Like, it's not just him just dropping 16s over whatever instrumental track is there. Like, it sounds like he is reacting to the music and, like, having a good time with it. He sounds loose in a way that, like, I think his typical style, that kind of staccato kind of, vibe that he has on a lot of his bigger records. This sounds like him, loosening up his pants a little bit and being like, Freak Mama, there goes my credibility, y'all. Like, he's just like, he's having fun.
Fun song. This is a fun song. This and if there's like a shadow or alternate universe Judgment Night soundtrack, it's this and the Run DMC Living Color song. Like, if we had one where it's just like, here's just something that's a little more fun, a little funkier, in a more rock and roll sort of way. In fact, for Mudhoney, this actually doesn't sound like the other Mudhoney songs that I've heard. This sounds much more straightforward blues rock by Mudhoney standards.
Yeah, I think they both kind of meet in the middle on it in a way that I think makes a workable, good song. That the rest of this, or the high points of the rest of this soundtrack, there's a lot of harder music on here that makes this kind of a little weird. But yeah, you're right. I don't think Subset happens if this doesn't happen in 93. I don't think and we would be worse off if Subset never existed. So
Subset's good.
Subset is good. It's a bummer that never like happened for real. It's this weird, if people don't know, it's Sir Mix-a-Lot and the Presidents of the United States of America, the band that did Peaches.
Well, they were addicted to the fame.
Yeah, and they did Addicted to the Fame and Blood from a Stone. There's a handful of songs that are from live recordings or all this other stuff, and I'm sure Marco could tell us more about why that didn't happen. He
that's right,
tracks that stuff in a much more direct way. But yeah, Subset never really happened for real. Did any of that ever get a release? I don't think it did. It was like a lot of it leaked out, session stuff leaked out, or
we had
some pre-record tracks.
On your FTP site, but I don't think there was ever a full record.
And
they were even great doing interviews together, like talking about their experiences, going through like the hit machine,
right,
and dealing with record labels. And Sir Mix-a-Lot had a weird career after Baby Got Back. And I say weird because he was under just immense pressure to replicate the success of Baby Got Back.
And Put Him on the Glass didn't get it done.
No. Jump on It, though, is fucking incredible.
It's great.
So good.
Yeah. But it's, nothing at the heights of Baby Got Back, and how could you expect that? It's weird. It must be weird to be considered a one-hit wonder on, like, what is that, his third or fourth record?
Yeah, and he's got so many songs. I know you don't like all of Mac. I think Mac Daddy is just great.
I'm not a big Mac Daddy fan.
Swap Me Louie, he was trying to teach us.
Swap Me Louie is great.
Testarossa. That's still, when I hooked up my subwoofer in my home theater, it was like, I'm putting on Tester. Like, that Testarossa is like my bass kick test song.
I like Swass.
Swass is
I like
good.
every track on Swass.
He's still getting paid off Swass.
I think Beepers is a fucking incredible song off Seminar. I think
weird. I'm sorry.
I like Seminar.
Yeah. Because it's weird that people think the guy who did Buttermilk Biscuits, that Baby Got Back is his novelty song.
I love Buttermilk Biscuits.
Is there have you ever, why did he pitch his vocals? Why was he doing the chipmunk voice?
Who knows? Was he trying to play a different character? Or was he trying to create like a
maybe.
Humpty Hump-esque sort of situation? Was it a P-Funk kind of, weird thing there? Like, I don't
where
really
on this
know.
record, why didn't we get like Digital Underground with the Lords of Acid?
I was gonna say Lords of Acid with Lords of the Underground, but Lords of Brooklyn.
Lords of Brooklyn, yes. Lords of Brooklyn are the Funkdoobiest to House of Pain.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Was there any shared management there? Because they always just struck me as just like, we're the Italian House of Pain instead of the Irish House of Pain.
And young black teenagers were like, we done fucked up.
Yeah, it was like we could have. We strove for credibility, and I don't know.
This game really didn't work for us on many levels.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think individually, the King Aries Mac ruling over knuckleheads. I think this is Cameron had his film career.
Which was House Party 2.
Which was House Party 2.
I've DM'd like DJ Scribble and other members of YBT. DJ Scribble told me in a DM, he's like, there's a third record, it's done, it's mastered, it never got released. But I've like hit up members of YBT, like, can you please just send me a copy of the third record? I really want to hear that.
Yeah. What would that have even, God, what the fuck, when would that have even happened? Like what? Like, think about how many, like, what year that must have taken place and how their music probably would have evolved or not evolved.
Well, it would have been 93, 94, so probably just all songs about weed.
Right. Yeah. Just like
As
Vanilla
was
Ice.
the style. As was the style at the time. YBT hit us up with
yes, we won't leak it, I swear.
But Freak Mama, Freak Mama's good. I mean, I like it. It's fun.
Yeah.
Maybe doesn't win an award, but although, okay, so you want to talk about bands that were built around one song after hearing it? Del the Funky Homo Sapien with Dinosaur Jr. doing Missing Link. I swear to God, I have played concerts with 5 different versions of this band. I have seen I've seen bands that their entire gimmick was this song at least a dozen times.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that's direct? Do you think that they directly like heard this and took like meaningful influence from it, or did it just was it just happenstance of just like we're a little kind of jam band,
because this song is the best. Let me just be clear. This song is the best version of I'm just gonna do some flow of consciousness rhymes while you just rock out and jam on guitar.
Yeah,
and we're gonna bring it together. This song is like the A++ version of that. Every band I've seen this tried to do this has not achieved this peak.
No, they're like they're like, we're a collective, man, and we got a gallon of water jug on stage that we all drink from.
Hey, North Coast Underground each had their own gallon of water.
Wow, okay. I didn't realize the writer had evolved.
No, I think of North Coast Underground when I think of this song. North Coast Underground did a tighter version of this, but North Coast Underground, that first demo, is very much this.
Yeah, that's like, and I think there's a real, like, again, like early 90s, it's not necessarily, we're not quite post-grunge or anything like that yet, but it is this sort of, in North Coast Underground's case, like they're literally from kind of the Humboldt County area, and so they're just growing up in the illegal weed trade that was happening very hard there on the Lost Coast. And I went up, we when the last fires hit in 2020, I guess it was the fires that inspired me to get the fuck out of that area.
Yeah.
We had to, because we had a baby and the smoke when the house was too bad and all this other stuff. So we had to like figure out where we were going to flee to. We ended up driving up there. It was the first time I'd ever been up to anywhere close to Humboldt County or anything out there, because it was kind of on the other side of the fire. And so the wind wasn't, it was actually nice. And I thought about North Coast Underground the entire time I was there.
Did you make the wife listen to it and explain?
I didn't have it at the time. You recently rehooked me up back with it, and I did not have the North Coast Underground 3-song demo for a good long time there. Grab a pick, indeed. They continued on. They have tracks on Spotify that they like reincarnated as a separate thing with some of the original members. It's not good.
Not as good. But no, look, Del the Funky Homo Sapien it's shitty that a lot of his press was, he's Ice Cube's cousin.
He grew out of that. But yes, the early buzz on Del was definitely like, hey, he's on Ice Cube's record there on one of the skits. He calls in.
He's very talented. He's got an amazing flow.
Loves the Sega Saturn.
Loves it. This track is awesome. This occasionally is my favorite track on the soundtrack as well.
This is one I would, this I could take it or leave it. It is very well done, but again, when I come to the Judgment Night soundtrack, this is not what I'm coming for. I am coming for the aggression. I am coming for the hard shit.
Nobody ever set a car on fire listening to Missing Link.
No, definitely not. Maybe accidentally. They're like, I dropped my pipe and then this, no, we were trying to hotbox my Ultima and now, oh no, the whole car is on fire. Like maybe that happened, but and
there's a video online from the Arsenio Hall show that's on YouTube with Dinosaur Jr. and Dell performing this live, and Mike D is playing drums.
Interesting.
Yeah. Huh. Good performance live. What I like about this, and maybe it's just that because again, we've seen so many bad versions of this style.
Yeah.
I like that they're able to like modulate the tempo and tone. And even when you watch them do it live, they're just in sync with how they're keeping the balance of it all. And I think if you know anything about music, like you cannot help but be impressed by the fact that they've got Jay Mascis just like noodling away on the guitar in this fashion, and Dell is able to keep his flow going, and it does they complement each other rather than compete with each other.
This could have been a band. This did, like a lot of these things feel like, oh, it's a novelty that these things were thrown together for one night only or whatever. But like, yes, if you put Dell with Dinosaur Jr. and said put out a record, they could absolutely do it. Still to this day, I bet. I'm going to be even better now.
I think Dell, I think Dell, I know there were a lot of other factors. There's no way in my mind that this did not help him get the Gorillaz gig.
Sure. I bet that was probably a thing. I mean, I think, with Deltron happening and that raising his profile to an entirely different audience, I think that, Dell became much, I think, bigger than a lot of the Hieroglyphics crew, obviously, and rose up out of that. And I think that his profile, because of the Deltron record, probably, because that happened after, right? Gorillaz was after Deltron 3030 came out, right?
So Gorillaz was what, 99, 2000?
Sounds right.
But even the flow on this is very similar to Clint Eastwood.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I think like Dell's got that flow down pat. Like that's not something he was doing on his solo records in this era though, so it's interesting that like he had this range in him the whole time. But like, I think when you listen to like Both Sides of the Brain or some of the other stuff that he was putting out solo kind of before all that stuff happened, it's not like this, but he had this. And that's pretty cool.
It's really good. Highly recommend this. Song. And then Jeff, is this your favorite song in the record?
Yeah, we finally have come to my two favorite bands coming together to form one favorite thing. It's Therapy with a question mark after it, and Fatal. I don't know anything about either of these acts at all, other than they did this. They did this track, Come and Die.
The band Therapy toured with the Jesus Lizard so much that I would see that on ads, and I thought that there was one band called the Jesus Lizard Therapy.
Yeah. Okay. That checks out.
I don't know anything. Isn't Fatal related to somebody?
Is it? Yeah. Typing in Fatal rapper into Google doesn't really.
Joe Fatal. He was Tragedy's DJ.
Okay.
Used to roll with Eric B. and Rakim.
Okay.
And G-Rap.
All right. Okay. Yeah, this is this track just eventually boils down to them just shouting, "Die! Come and die with me!" and shouting "die" over and over again, and that's all I remember about it. And I just listened to it an hour and a half ago, and I'm still like, "Oh yeah."
I have heard at least 50 bands that basically took this song and turned it into an entire catalog.
Yeah. This doesn't really come across as a merging of hip hop and metal. Really, I don't. This just seems like there's there's elements of it, but it doesn't. Yeah.
But even the like, I can't rap that well, so I'm gonna really process my vocals. Like, feel the helter skelter. Yeah. Like, I've like a lot of German rap metal kind of sounds like this.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, maybe this was the blueprint for what they were doing.
Like that Guano Ape song. Like, yeah, there's a lot of European, like, rapcore. It sounds like this.
Yeah, so Come and Die doesn't really, it is, I think, by far the worst track on the record.
Wow.
This is, I mean, if you got to pick a bottom, this is it, man. This is the bottom. It's like the track after it is almost like a bonus track. So this really feels like, all right, we got 10 tracks here. Put the worst one at the end. It's fine. It's a movie soundtrack. Like, sequencing matters up to a point, but like, really, let's just bury this fucking thing at the end because no one cares.
And to think this could have been the Funkdoobiest track.
I know. Yeah. If this had been Therapy and Funkdoobiest, maybe.
and Son Doobie thought he was going to therapy.
Yo, come and die with me. I got Angels number 8. It's great. We're going to put it on.
He showed up. He thought it was sex therapy.
Yeah. Like, yeah. You one of those therapists that help with with having it?
Why isn't Son Doobie like teaching like a pickup artist course now?
What is Son Doobie doing now? When was the last time Son Doobie put any? I mean, honestly, the Son Doobiest, the Funkdoobiest train, I feel like pulled out of the station sometime in the 90s.
Well, he was in an adult film. He actually
was that's right.
In a porn
movie. I remember. Yes, I remember that now. Good on him.
Son Doobie doesn't have a Wikipedia entry.
Find a job doing what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That's what they say. So congratulations to Son Doobie, the porno king, for parlaying his rap career into something he cared about.
Yeah. We got to figure out what Son Doobie's up to.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. We'll break this down. Stay tuned on Game Boys to Men. We're gonna.
Yeah. Yes. The next episode, it was going to be about Nintendo, but now it's 3 hours on.
Gonna break down the lyrics and references and bow wow wow.
Oh man.
Get Son Doobie for an interview.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Come and Die. Whatever, man. I think it's kind of bad. It like, I feel like the kind of the hardness, the rage, the whatever you want to call it, of some of the harder songs on this soundtrack, I feel like play well together and all this stuff. This one just feels corny to me. This feels like, oh yeah, man, come and die, come and die with me. Like, it's just like, shut the fuck up.
This Biohazard and Onyx passed the assignment.
Yes.
Fatal and Therapy get a C.
Yeah. They attendance counts for something here.
Yes. But then we close with Cypress Hill and Pearl Jam. It's really Cypress Hill with Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam. Eddie Vedder was not hanging out in the studio. Is
that not him doing the background vocals in that one part? I never really knew.
No, I think Eddie Vedder probably was like, "You want me to do what?" And
I was like, "I've got to go write Temple of the Dog songs now." Yes, this song "Real Thing" is up there. This is it's like this or Just Another Victim for me normally on a normal day, unless I'm looking to dig in. Those would be the two tracks I would be looking to listen to. This is by far a superior sound and a superior track than I Love You, Mary Jane, the other Cypress Hill cut on the record.
Oh yeah.
I think that it's a better representation of Cypress Hill's kind of style. This is more like How I Could Just Kill a Man. Exactly.
Cypress Hill.
Like, this is not Weed Cypress Hill. This is we have to kill someone Cypress Hill. The other one.
We can tell. History has shown us which Cypress Hill won.
Yes. Yes. Which Cypress Hill was easier to make money off of an unsuspecting public. Turns out.
People.
The weed community is easily like, yeah, man, I like weed too. The Cypress Hill record is good, man. I did a Spanish record? Man, that's way out there, man. Like, and what is Be Real doing? Be Real was the original voice I saw campaigning for Normal
Oh yeah.
The National Organization for the Reformation of Marijuana Laws, and now like he won in a lot of ways. So, you know, what now? I mean, obviously, you know, the Biden administration talked about decriminalizing and you know, commuting sentences and some of this other stuff. So like some of that stuff's happening. There's still probably more to do there. So probably more for Be Real to campaign for, but I don't know if he's as active in that scene as he maybe once was. I know he was doing a radio show online for a while. He was doing like Be Real TV or something. I don't know if that still exists or what Be Real is up to. They're still putting out music, obviously. He was part of it was like him and Exhibit, and there was like a super group type situation.
Oh, Prophets of Rage. Was he doing that?
No, it was it wasn't Strong Arm Steady. It was there was something that he was doing with Exhibit that I don't know if it ever actually came out, but now I need to look. Can I still spell Exhibit? Yes, I can. There's no H in it.
Oh, Be Real was Cypress, or was in Prophets of Rage.
Yeah, Serial Killers is what they called it.
Got it. Sendog gets a verse on this.
Yeah,
very good. Sendog also gets to talk at the end. So it's been 30 years and there's no lyrics on it for this. I still don't fully grasp what Sendog is talking about.
What Sendog is talking about is if you've got the real, then okay, the song's called Real Thing, and he's like, if you've got the real, that's good. You want to have that. It's like, if you got the real, then you got the. If you got the real, then baby, you got the, because you're gonna get set. Yeah, boy. Yeah, there's a whole. The end of that song is just fucking some real one take. Imagine, I mean, it has to be one take nonsense, right? But like, imagine if there's like 40 more takes of like Sendog trying to do the end of the song, and he's like, nah, it's not quite right. It's just like, yeah, I want to fuck a bit, you know. Like, no. Send, like, come on.
Emilio Estevez. He was in Wisdom. It's a great movie if you turn it off right at the end.
Repo Man, what's that car's crazy? Yeah. They're gonna make Mission Impossible and Emilio's gonna get it raw. The elevator scene is crazy shit. That's the real. I think my favorite part of this track, and what makes it one of the best songs on the record, it is Sendog's verse getting cut off by Be Real come back and go, click, click, bang, bang, because it ain't no thing when I hang with Stone. And he's like shouting out a member of Pearl Jam. It's just very, oh man, when all the music stops and he shouts out, click, click, it's just fucking great. It's
great. Now, this, speaking of the real, was this part of the inspiration for Suburban All-Stars, Some of the Real?
I mean, you know, I think that realness is definitely a trending topic in hip hop in the 90s for sure. And sure, I'm going to say that, you know, like it all adds up over time. If not a direct inspiration, then certainly there is a desire to
be real.
Be real. If we're being serious here, you've got to keep it real. As I've said numerous times on this podcast, you've got to keep it real.
Could be the name of your autobiography.
Yes. Yeah, I like this track a lot. I think it's got a really good vibe to it on top of that. And it is just kind of a little all over the place. It's maybe not as focused lyrically as, say, I Love You, Mary Jane, but I think that suffers from a little too much focus. So I think it balances out in the end. And to me, again, like this almost feels like a bonus track in a way, because it's like you've already got another Cypress Hill track on here, and you're like, hey, we did one more. And by the way, it's with fucking Pearl Jam, who at the time,
huge.
Yeah.
No bigger in 93.
No bigger.
Maybe Nirvana would have been the only bigger get.
Right.
And who would you have paired Nirvana with, Jeff?
MC 900 Foot Jesus. And Nirvana. I think that would work.
I'm also going to lump MC 900 Foot Jesus in, where I don't trust your tastes, if that's your recommendation of music for me. I like hip hop, like MC 900 Foot Jesus.
Right. Yes. Oh, you like hip hop music? Oh, what are you into?
You'll have more credibility with me if you say you're into DC talk. I'd be like, I get it.
All right. Yeah, you're crazy, but okay. That's a crazy I can believe in. Yeah. No, there was I don't know what was the one MC 900 Foot Jesus song?
If I Only Had a Brain.
If I Only Had a Brain. I think that track is good for what it is, and I could not name any other MC 900 Foot Jesus tracks. But that song got a lot of play.
Well, it was on Beavis and Butthead.
Okay. That makes some sense. But I feel like I feel like I probably heard it before that. Yeah, but I feel like I got some play before that. But
speaking of which, so it's amazing that given all the talent involved in this, that like MTV barely had anything to do with it. There were music videos for Fallen, for Judgment Night, for Another Body Murdered. And there was an MTV news story about Ice-T and Slayer. I think there's an MTV, like MTV Germany interview with Happy Walters that I found talking about the creation of this. But yeah, just nothing. MTV had a Live and Loud concert with Cypress Hill. And in fact, oh my God, you have to check this out. They do the performance that they did of The Real Thing on that did have Stone and Jeff from Pearl Jam. That's not online anymore. But watching this Live and Loud concert, it's got Anthony Kiedis and Flea doing some ethnic stereotypes. And that's putting it in like a way that's very downplaying. It starts off with them as dressed as like Hasidic Jews. And then just goes downhill from there.
Cool. Very cool.
The wraparounds for this.
Listen, it was the 90s.
It was the 90s.
People are dumb now, but people were dumb in a different way then.
Yes.
And it's all dumb. I'm not going to hand wave all that shit away by saying, hey, it was the 90s. But if you think about the music that was about to break by the mid to late 90s and think about just how stupid the culture was about to become.
Oh, that's true.
Through nu metal up until kind of the rise of Eminem, like, and CKY and Jackass and all of the, like, it was this kind of final time in a sense for dudes to be dudes, dude, you know, and right up until like what, Woodstock 99 or something.
And then it was like, you've gone too far.
You've gone too far.
We need to make 6 documentaries about it.
Right. And yes, there was
everybody denying blame.
Yeah, it wasn't my fault. I don't know. It was muddy. Whatever.
Yeah. But no, I think it's interesting that MTV kind of abandoned this.
It's weird, you know, because to me, it becomes that starts to create this situation of just like, how did this soundtrack get the level of renown that it did then? Because that was something that, like, I want to say you and I were into it. I think when we met, well, I know Ryan McDonald was into it. This type of hard music is definitely like fucking, again, you go break some windows to this.
Oh, shit. Fatal in Therapy. I mean, I'll message him now. It was probably his favorite track on the record.
Maybe. But there's definitely like I feel like we were into it, and I think when I've had conversations about it with other people who also find it to be this like incredibly like relevant record at a very pivotal time in the culture, and you know, and so I just wonder like how, you know, like maybe that was the missing link, is that you were subscribed to Billboard and that's how we found out about it. Because like I was trying to find that out. Like, well, was it a factor of like, this is the next House of Pain, it's not just the Who's the Man soundtrack with their one track on there or whatever, like this is, you know, this is okay. Were we so desperate for anything more from House of Pain, and to a lesser extent Cypress Hill, that like this became a must buy because of that, and we discovered like, oh shit, this whole record's incredible? Or I'm having trouble kind of figuring out the context for how this fit or how this happened. How we happened.
I mean, so I knew about it, and just on the concept, like I bought this. If I could have pre-ordered it, I would have. I think I was checking. I was like, is this in yet? When's this coming out?
Yeah.
This record only went gold. 500,000 copies, but to the right people, man. Like,
yeah, totally. Like I look at this as like one of like this is like one of those kind of missing links again from like the, you know, everyone talks about the kind of the impact of Walk This Way or No Sleep Till Brooklyn and all other stuff, but that's like 80s shit. Like this is years after that. This is kind of the next phase of that. And I think if you're walking along that path to like, how did we get to rap rock? This is like that middle post that this is the missing link that I think makes all of that make sense.
Pearl Jam, one of their short-term drummers who played on this, was selling his gold record. I can't see how much it went for, but I might have bid on that. Yeah, this was bought by the right people. And And I think this was probably one of those albums that just got dubbed to death.
Yeah.
Again, no radio play. And in the Bay Area, I mean, I don't remember hearing a single track from this on the radio, because I think
definitely not.
well,
Like, would Live 105 have maybe played? Like the alt rock station might have picked up.
2 years later, if this had been 2 years later, when Format X was a thing, remember when KOME, because they were playing Cypress Hill and they were playing alternative also. If this came out 2 years later, this would have been huge.
But again, if this had come out 2 years later, Format X might not have existed, because I think this helped kind of bridge that gap. This is, I think you also probably put this on a timeline with like Check Your Head, and to a lesser extent Ill Communication, in terms of just like, okay, now the Beastie Boys are picking their instruments back up and kind of making rockier records, and they're touring with Cypress Hill, and then you've got you've got Ice Cube on Lollapalooza. Like you've got all of these kind of touch points for how hip hop and alt rock or metal or whatever kind of came together in a lot of different ways. And I think all of those things, for better or worse in a lot of cases, is how we get to Limp Bizkit. It's how we get to Linkin Park and Korn, like all of that sort of stuff.
So there was a track that didn't make it on the record. Have you heard this? Rage Against the Machine and Tool.
Jesus, no. That's
I think
that's a fitting pairing, but also
too on the nose. I think too close to each other. But Can't Stop the Revolution. It's out there. I get the members talk about. Well, we didn't really. It was a demo. We didn't really finish it. It's a little all over the place. It's okay. But I know there are some fans of that band, both those bands, that like love hearing them come together. I just think that it would not have fit in as well on this.
No, you're probably, I have not heard it, but you're probably right. When I think about when I think about Tool and my feelings on the band Tool, that's not necessarily something I would have been there for. Also, I think Rage Against the Machine is already a band that personified this concept on its own. So, they were already doing it in a way that, these bands had to come together to do it. But like Rage was already a rap rock band. They were already hip hop. They were already a hard band. So yeah, that is kind of a weird fit, but
yeah, it's on YouTube. Encourage everyone to check it out. Just for full,
how many different time signatures does it go through?
So Happy Walters, who had Immortal Records, went on to also manage Korn, Incubus, a lot of other bands. In the evolution of the fusion of styles, tried to replicate the success of the Judgment Night soundtrack with the Spawn soundtrack, taking electronic and metal and mixing them together, and then the Blade 2 soundtrack mixing together electronica and hip hop. I think the Blade 2 soundtrack was a better, more successful attempt to recreate the magic.
Yeah, the Spawn soundtrack didn't do anything for me at all. That was not. That was I have to go back and look at the track list for sure. But like that did not make a blip at all. But I remember when I got my hands on the Blade 2 soundtrack, I didn't even realize that the same mind was behind all three of these until about 6 months ago. I was just like idly looking up the Judgment Night soundtrack on Wikipedia and being like, oh, it makes a ton of sense now that I think about it. That this was like kind of a trilogy of works from the same person trying to duplicate this. And yes, Blade 2, there's some good stuff on the Blade 2 soundtrack.
Yeah.
It doesn't reach the heights of the Judgment Night soundtrack, and it is not like culturally as tapped in, if you will, as this was then. But there's some stuff on there that I would definitely go back to.
And Blade 2 integrates the soundtrack much better into the movie because the electronic music works very well. Whereas, almost none of these songs really work in the context of the film Judgment Night, which is shocking. And when they're used, it's in short bits and pieces, and it just does. I mean, part of it too is that Dennis Leary is just still not really. Dennis Leary could give a menacing performance. It ain't in this movie.
Right. Yeah. And like it's almost a shame because I think if you listen to this soundtrack and think about it as a movie soundtrack, that's a movie I would like to see.
We're going to buy the rights to remake Judgment Night, and we're going to base it entirely on the soundtrack this time.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yes, it's not, we're throwing out the entire script. We're just using the name and the soundtrack. And then we are also separately, as much as we're going to re-release this soundtrack as is, we're also going to get new bands together and new rappers together. We've got Lil Uzi Vert on the line.
Actually, and here's what I think we do. I think we make it a musical with the songs from the soundtrack.
Okay, yeah.
And so the characters are performing the songs. I think this would work.
I mean, why? Yeah, and also Dennis Leary's in this one too.
Happy Walters is on Twitter and has like 5,000 followers and now is a sports management. He's actually got one of those agencies that does sports endorsement deals, I think.
Okay.
He has a story about Suge Knight in him and some other things that made him want to get out of the music business.
Yeah, it seems like that was going around in the 90s, I guess.
Yeah. Not too active on Twitter or else I would have blown him up already with questions, lots of questions about Judgment Night.
Right.
Which people on Twitter must love when they get the Glenn Rubenstein tweet of, I want to ask you now something very specific about something you did 30 years ago.
Right. Yes. Let's do this Twitter interview right here. Yes. I mean, you got to do it while Twitter's still there, right? You never know what's going to happen. So
yes.
Get it out now.
Denise Crosby to confirm that may have been her in Danny Aiello's response song to Papa Don't Preach called Papa Just Wants the Best for You.
That may have been her? Yeah, she didn't remember doing a day on a fucking music video set?
Like, I did a lot of music videos back in the 80s.
Okay.
And I sent her a picture and she was like, you know what? That might be me. Probably is. Okay. I didn't know about this Danny Aiello song until a year ago. And it's Danny Aiello singing.
I don't know that I've ever heard it, but I feel like I knew it existed. I knew that like there was the Papa Don't Preach response song out there, but I just never. I was like, that sounds like something I don't need to track down and listen to.
Oh, you need to watch it. In the video, he's punching a heavy bag because he's got the rage about his daughter getting pregnant, and then he breaks down crying and he's hugging the heavy bag like he wants to hug his daughter. Danny
Aiello's got range.
He does.
And you can always count on him for that.
But I don't know. So I mean, like I said, we're going to kick a head start on this. Kick off for the 30th anniversary of Judgment Night. Yep. I wish there were more covers. What was that band from Hungary that I sent you that's covering Fallen? And English is not their native language.
Is it Bill Bull? Let me look here.
Bull Ball covering Fallen live in concert. Recommend checking that out as well. And there's Helmet still plays Just Another Victim live. They don't do the rap. And then House of Pain does the rap part from Just Another Victim live. But oftentimes, and remember when we almost went and saw House of Pain like 5 years ago at the Great American Music Hall? And then I sent you videos. I'm like, thank God we didn't go because they used different beats and they like had like blues rock playing. Like,
oh, geez.
So they're covering Just Another Victim now, and it's just like totally different. Blasphemy.
Everlast's career is fascinating. I think, he had his heart attack and then kind of came out the other side of it and, started, he did fucking What It's Like and put out his solo records, and then La Coca Nostra happened, and then suddenly he was hard again. And it was like,
because of Eminem,
Right. Oh, well, yeah. The Eminem thing, I don't think he came out of that. I don't think he came out of that beef looking any Eminem, better. Yeah.
Quitter is one of the best diss tracks ever.
Yes, it's phenomenal.
So good.
And then I remember naming your fucking mixtape or record or whichever one it was, The Audacity of Dope, I think is fucking inspired. But I don't know. Like I like Everlast. I think he's got a good voice and a good flow and all that sort of stuff. But I think a lot of those guys that are in La Coca Nostra with him, like I'm not really that into Slain or Ill Bill and some of those other guys. It's like, and so it's kind of a weird crew. They were didn't La Coca Nostra form on television or something? Wasn't there some kind of?
I don't remember.
Did they end up being part of one of those MC Search fucking reality shows or something? I forget. But there was something. There was something around that. But
MC Search. If anyone has full length episodes recorded of MC Search's short lived talk show from like 10 years ago, please send them my way because it's delightful. But no, Danny Boy from House of Pain now owns the Outsiders House in Tulsa.
Yeah,
really interesting guy to follow. Yeah, I'm very fascinated by what Danny Boy has done with his career. I think again, he's the most talented MC in House of Pain, and it's a shame that. But maybe it's because we only did get smaller doses.
Right. You wonder if like, because the X Supermodels, like those 4 tracks that came out, like one of them is good and the other 3 are like, okay, well, yeah.
Everlast is a little, and this goes back to when he had the neck and was with the Syndicate. Everlast's problem with hip hop is that Everlast has a lot of like 32 bar rhymes that could have been a really tight 8.
Yeah, but I think if we had a tightened up Everlast, you would not get lines like "feeling like De Niro in Taxi Driver" with Jodie Foster and Harvey Keitel. The verbosity of Everlast, I think, is why you get some of these things that almost sound like asides in the middle of a verse, and you're like, "What?" I
would have said to keep that. If I was editing the song, I would be like, "We're keeping that."
Yeah, this is definitely keeping that part in, of course. But I think like it's because he will just fucking go.
Yeah,
that I think that you end up with some of those verses that he had. Yeah, it's Everlast is a complicated figure. I think in a lot of ways. There's. But his career is really fucking weird because I like when What It's Like came out. I was like, that song's all right for what it is. Yeah. I'm not a huge, it's fine. His little acoustic thing. But then he like that took off and he kept going with it for a while. And you're like, oh, this is fucking terrible. What the fuck is going on? And so then you've got like his fucking acoustic version of Jump Around. Like this makes you want to do the opposite of Jump Around. You have made you have taken the soul of this song and crushed it to crushed to earth. Well,
do you think that much like Jim Carrey and every comedian looked at the career of Robin Williams and said, I need to follow that Machine Gun Kelly looked at Everlast's career and said, this is the way?
Well, I mean, yeah, because Machine Gun Kelly also got blown the fuck out by Eminem and had to change his whole style. Like he got fucking, Eminem. We could talk another 3 hours about the goods and bads of Eminem. But like, at least he fucking drove Machine Gun Kelly out the fucking game. I mean, granted, now he's more popular than ever because he just fucking changed up his look and said, I'm going to make pop punk. Like you look like you should be in jail for something. But at least, yeah. So yes, I guess in a sense, Everlast but I guess Everlast made the change before Eminem came for him, or he came for Eminem, or whatever ended up happening there. So, that is the subtle difference is that Machine Gun Kelly basically couldn't fucking make rap music after what happened to him. It's like, no, you're done. This is like what happened to Ja Rule in a slightly different way, but way worse. But I wonder if like there's a part of him that lies there in bed at night and goes, you know what? Having Eminem really fucked me up on the microphone. Best thing that ever happened to me. I'm making more money now. I'm more popular now than I ever would have been as a hip hop artist. I'm way too old to be dressing like this and for this pop punk revival, but here we are. Yeah, I don't know. He owes this facet of this part of his career to Eminem, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
Yep. The Judgment Night soundtrack is in stores now.
Got reissued on vinyl for Record Store Day a few years
ago. That's neat. Yeah. So that's like one of those things. It's like it clearly has a lasting impact. It clearly, like, there are people that are checking for it. There are people that like remember it as a valuable thing from that time and all that it is kind of getting those sorts of treatments. I guess a lot of bullshit gets reissued on vinyl, so maybe that's not as important as it seems, but like, I don't know, for something that seems like it's like, here's a movie soundtrack to an utterly forgettable movie. The idea that this thing has lingered around, that I, like over the last year, I feel like I've had 2 conversations about it just pop up randomly.
Yeah.
In ways that you'd be like, well, it's weird. That doesn't happen for a lot of music out there. So I think it touched a lot of people and made a mark on a lot of people. I don't, I can't say for sure, but I don't think if that hadn't come out, I don't know that we would have started rapping there for the few years that we were at it.
It's definitely part of the formula, definitely part of the equation.
Yeah.
Decent part of it. Certainly the band part.
Right. Yes. But even still, I think, without the without some of those verses out there and stuff like that. Like, I don't know that I would have been as inclined. But yeah, it's not quite a situation of like everyone who bought that went and started a band, but you when you see where the culture went in the years following this,
ratio is higher than significantly higher.
Right. Like this kind of did pave the way for a lot of fucking weird shit to happen in the years that followed. Good and bad. But
yes.
Hey, what are you gonna do?
Cool.
That's gonna do it for this bonus episode. Technically a bonus episode of Game Boys to Men, which you can we've been going through the 90s, talking about the rise of Sega and the popularity of Mortal Kombat and a lot of these things that we were there to kind of see as we were kind of getting our feet wet in the game, as it were. And you can get that on Patreon over at patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann. If you want to know more about that, or go to dopeassvideogames.com. That will also lead you there. And you can find, I believe, the conversations about the Judgment Night soundtrack that led to us realizing we needed to do this as a separate episode, if only to get it out of our systems. And of course, thanks everybody. I hope you have a good holiday, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you're into out there. And
Funkdoobiest, we're thinking about you. Please hit us up.
Yes, Funkdoobiest. We are always
Funkdoobie. Yes.
Always Funkdoobie. Always on my mind. That's what that song was about. I don't know if you know that. A lot of people don't. We'll be back next year. We'll be back even sooner the next year, maybe with another episode of Game Boys to Men. Of course, over on the Patreon. Again, dopeassvideogames.com. We'll get you there. So head on over there and read more about it. We'll see you then.
Thanks.
Bye.